The thug is in.
Let's move on. So, this is top four. Whoever wins this gets guaranteed $100 at minimum. Here we go. Top four. Larue on the top versus Birds on the bottom. Larue has been playing solid, been doing good, and Birds, again, just going to be this is my take, my honest take. I don't think Birds has been playing particularly well. I think he's been playing good enough, but I also think he's been getting really lucky in a lot of scenarios. Not just lucky in like the actual hacks, but lucky in terms of, like, I don't know. I just feel like there's so many ways that Bird should have been losing. But either way, he's here, and he's in top four. Cool, cool team from Birds as well. I mean, you can see again, this is another variation of Blissey Marowak Gyarados. You saw that there was Registeel Marowak Gyarados before. Now it's Blissey Marowak, and then Dodrio, which is a different flail user over Gyarados, and makes this team a lot more solid versus Marowak. Because that's what a cool Blissey plus Dodrio is actually a surprisingly cool core because Dodrio destroys Marowak and it beats fighting types like Heracross, Cham, Yama, Champ, all those things. And even does some cute things like, I mean, like it beats Regice, which Gyarados usually doesn't. I don't know, just like interesting things like that. Not that I don't think Larue has brought a single Regice, but whatever. I think Birds is just using what he's comfortable with. And on the top, just a solid team. I mean, Metagross and Raikou, ones that Larue loves. Maybe Crucified built these teams. I'm not really sure who built Larue's teams because Larue never ever builds by himself, but probably just says like I want these solid Pokemon. Doesn't really bring anything crazy. And yeah, this is pretty much a simple pick. It's either you go Vaporeon into the Marowak slash the Dodrio, or you go a most likely banded Metagross into Blissey, which I think is going to lack counter here because of the Gyarados matchup. It's probably going to have T-Bolt. This needs to be banned Metagross because of the really yikes Sceptile matchup, and you want to run Sludge Bomb. But either way, let's just see who wins the 50-50. And it's Birds going Blissey into Vaporeon, and this should just win. What's actually funny here is in this situation, if this was a Mimic Vaporeon, you could actually mimic this Calm Mind turn one, and you actually just win, assuming that it isn't Thunderbolt. But this is the classic Birds Thunderbolt Blissey, which is for Gyarados. Actually, let's see that Thunderbolt. I won't ditch it. Oop, there's the Thunderbolt. Later trying to fish for freeze. Turns out to be a Pataya Vaporeon. Kind of crazy. I don't really know what that specifically does. It's interesting, to say the least. And I think it might be like a way to beat Ursaring, I guess. I don't know. It's probably anti-Gyarados as well. With Hidden Power Electric, maybe. I don't know. But either way, Birds takes game one. Game two. We got Regirock, Gyara, Celebi, and Kingdra Tauros Raikou on the bottom. Thing to think about here is, again, like, what in the world is beating Raikou solidly from Birds' side? Like, is it a DD Kingdra lure with Hyper Beam? Is it, like, Tauros hoping that that's your Raikou answer? Is it a really anti-Raikou Raikou? It just doesn't feel solid enough into Raikou unless it's DD Kingdra, which it totally could be. And yeah, and because of that, I think this is a very simple, like, you either go Regirock and Tauros Raikou, or you pick your Calm Mind Celebi likely, maybe, into Kingdra, or maybe a Gyarados into Kingdra, hoping it isn't HP Electric, which I don't think it really. I think it would definitely be like a Ice Beam, or again, like that deep set. And yeah, Larue makes an interesting pick here. This is a pick that I wasn't expecting, given what the set is. Larue thinks all the way down to 15 seconds and goes this Celebi into this. Now, hold on a second. Let me just, really quick. I think this is a... I don't know. I'm calling this out because I think it's kind of cheeky and cheesy. So Birds has been doing this the whole time, naming his Pokemon the sets that they aren't. Like, it's kind of a really, like, naive mind game that, like, nobody really falls for unless you're, like, new to 1v1 totally. Like, unless you really think you can pull off the, like, I just copy sets from the sets compendium thing. But usually people don't fall for it, and they're not going to fall for those nickname shenanigans. So while I guess it doesn't objectively hurt anything, I don't know. I feel like it's usually safer to just not nickname your Pokemon that stuff, because, like, haha, ban 2, and then I click sub. But either way, We see Celebi go for sub here, and I think this is a misplay. So this turns out to be my sub Lychee set. Giga Drain, break the sub, heal. Much better than Psychic because you heal off of sub. Body Slam, Paralysis, that stuff's going to happen. Giga Drains again. Then we see the sub here. We see no Giga Drain because Birds might not have subbed there. I think Giga Drain health would have helped, but it doesn't matter, and Birds wins that game. Interesting enough, if we look at this, I believe the Celebi could have won with the following plays. So sub turn 1 in general versus Tauros, I don't think really makes any sense because Tauros is usually going to outpace you. I don't really know what sub really gets you besides losing you health. I think Giga Drain turn 1 is always the play on sub or band, so you can like heal yourself back. So you could Giga Drain turn 1, right? And then you could Psychic or Giga Drain your way to beating Tauros, or Giga Drain your way out of range of Lychee Hyper Beam. And then I think it turns into a 50-50 somewhere after that. But either way, Birds did handle this well. Sub plus Paralysis, good chance to win. Lychee Berry and Hyper Beam was the deal. And it's over. So that is Birds up 2-0 versus Larue. 1 game away from finals. They both bring in Rachi Water type. This is another interesting game that happened. We're seeing a lot of Rachi plus Ludicolo happen this. I'm trying to remember. I forget what happened this. Oh, I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. So, Rachi Ludicolo very weak to Blissey. I don't think this is going to be sub-toxic Tauros at all. I think it's either going to be the sub-Lychee set or the band. And both of those sets perform really well versus Jirachi, while Jirachi performs really well versus opposing Jirachi and Ludicolo. Like Ludicolo, if it's the offensive Ice Beam set, destroys Sceptile, and obviously Ludicolo should never lose. God. What am I going to say? Say something. Damn it, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? I forgot. Hold on, let me think. What? Oh yeah, so the other thing I was thinking, no wait, yeah, Band Tauros made sense. Yeah, Band Tauros made a lot of sense. What I was going. And we see it here. Surprised that. Well, I feel like, and look, standard Calm Mind, and he goes Jirachi probably into the Ludicolo, into the Swampert, trying to beat said Tauros. And Lair just calls it and just goes the simple Tauros click, which I think is perfectly fine. If it was a slower Sceptile, you can still beat that with like Body Slam or Return, get Paralysis Hacks or Hidden Power Bug. And Tauros is fine into Swampert. I think this is a fine pick. And nothing much else to say on that. I'm sorry. Nothing much else to say. I definitely had something bigger to say on it, but I'm forgetting. Either way, Larue is bringing us back. This is Game 4. Game 4, we see remarkably similar teams. Ments, Raikou, Normal type. Here, obviously, I'm going to assume that this Raikou nor the Ments are anti-Blissey, because there's an Ursaring in the 3rd slot, probably to destroy said Blissey. And on Bird's end, on the bottom, that's Birds on the bottom, by the way, if I didn't make that clear. Birds bottom, Larue top. There's got to be something that's handling Marowak hard. So it's either going to be the sub Pattaya Ments. It could be my original Iron Defense Salamence. And either way, something's got to beat the Ursaring as well. And Band Ments is solid, but it can just lose the counter Ursaring, which I don't know why people don't use more. I think it's nasty. Like a more Fizz Def counter or Mash, Metagross's Mash. Either way, I think Birds made the simple and fine click, and Larue made the phenomenal pick here. Check this out. Larue thought, by the way, Larue thought all the way through. Birds didn't think. Larue thought all the way through and made a phenomenal pick. Here we go. Birds with the banned Ments. LOL. We'll see that it's not banned. We see Protect Raikou. Haven't seen that in a hot minute. On the D-Claw. No way you go D-Claw on banned. Claw, and it's Toxic Raikou, which is again pretty much unheard of nowadays. It is Protect Sub Toxic Raikou, and Birds does reveal to be the ID Ments. And this is over. Thunderbolt crit didn't matter at all because you were just gonna stall it out with Sub and Protect. And I think this was just a really smart pick because I think this really beat what was likely the Ments pick. Because only Ments that beats that Raikou was a Dragon Dance Salamence. And I think because of how weak Raikou Blissey was to things like Armaldo, Regirock, and Marowak, I think it was, again, way more than likely. Hold on, what is this song? Okay, we're playing this again. I think this was much more likely to be like there was no shot this was going to be defense, so that Toxic Raikou was always going to beat that. And it also had a pretty solid chance of beating opposing Raikou if it was like really fast, which I believe it probably was, because it outsped the Ments. Just a really nice click because that Ments is very anti-other Ments and very anti-Ursaring. Like you're not going to lose Ursaring. So, just a really intelligent pick, seeing that Birds wanted to click into the Ments and the Ursaring, thinking that Raikou wasn't going to come out and, like, Raikou wasn't going to come out against Blissey Raikou, right? And, Larue made just a nice pick there. Nice pick. But, I mean, Bird's click is also perfectly fine. I would have never tried to predict Toxic Raikou. Yeah. So, Birds' click is also perfectly fine there. But either way, as you can see, this is Game 5. Can Larue bring it back? Larue bringing his trusty Raikou again. Seeing a theme here, Raikou, Metagross, and Birds bringing what looks to be the same team from Game 2. Yeah, same thing we did. This is Game 5. Winner of this gets guaranteed money. Loser of this plays in the third round, the third place match. Matchup here, again, I think Tauros looks really nasty into Raikou, Metagross. Last time we saw that it was like that sub like probably sub Pataya Celebi against the Tauros. Is the Tauros a mix-up this time? It's probably the exact same team. So Larue has more information. This is like sub Lychee Tauros, which is going to do a lot better versus Metagross as well. And does Larue have an answer to the Tauros this time? Is Bird's going to try to play around that Tauros answer? Let's just see what happens. I don't need to analyze the preview on this one too much. Band 2 named again. And we see it is the substitute, and Larue makes the better play this time. Giga Drains turn 1. We see Body Slam, crit, paralysis, and it's the Reflect Celebi, and it gets crit again. You know what? What do you even say about stuff like that? Yeah, I mean, like, what do you even say? Like, Larue made the calculated pick. That set definitely lost, most likely, to Kingdra and Raikou. He picked specifically into the Tauros. He Giga Drained turn 1, which was perfectly fine and smart. And then he reflected turn 2, but the crit was just too early. And then he crit again through the reflect. Really unfortunate. Anti-Tauros set just gets double crit and paralyzed, all that stuff. And Birds, again, hacks his way into finals. I don't really know what else to say about it. Larue, I feel like, played a lot better that series, but you know what? Sometimes Pokemon is Pokemon. And, that shit just happens, you know what I mean? Either way, we're off to the other semifinals match, which is Dead Server versus Ecstatic Cold. So, this is the play Birds in ADV LT finals. Winner of this also gets guaranteed $100 at least. And here we go. Dead bringing his classic team of Heracross, Vaporeon, Marowak. He loves Heracross. He loves Vaporeon. Ecstatic Cold, I heard, wasn't really prepping too hard for this, but he also brings a nice team concept, which I've built before, which is Registeel Metagross plus a Water type to handle fires. Usually should be anti-Heracross in my opinion. Like when I built this like almost 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and I tried something like I've tried Registeel plus Metagross plus Gorbis, which was insane. And then I made a new version which I actually used on the ladder a good amount, which was Metagross Registeel plus Gyarados to be a lot more solid versus Heracross. Ecstatic elects to use Kingdra, which is like sometimes fine against Heracross, but it's usually pretty shaky, especially versus Salak Heracross. I'm really surprised that because of that, and this yikes Kingdra matchup in general, that he didn't go Kingdra and instead he chose Metagross, which honestly to me makes very little sense. But here we go. Let's see. Is it the Sub Lychee Heracross to beat the Metagross? It is, but it's bulk up to make it ultra secure. Not sure why this is bulk up. Might be for the Aerial Ace turn 1 Marowak or something, but bulk up Lychee takes the cake and beats Metagross. Um, cool stuff, cool stuff. And I don't know, Ecstatic Cold just got punished for bringing a really Heracross weak team. Dead Server is known to love Heracross. Um, where is like the max speed area like Metagross? There is something that's trying to lure Heracross. I don't know, but that's how I would have prepped. But you know what? Game 1. Game 2. The Ecstatic Cold bringing Jirachi, Marowak, Walrein. This is funny because when Ecstatic Cold qualified Cycle 3, during Cycle 4, he actually laddered super high at the start of Cycle 4 just for fun with Fortress, Jirachi, Walrein, which was insane. I forgot what the Fortress was really doing, but I definitely did lose to that Fortress. Crazy Mon. But instead, he's like, you know what? This time I don't really want Raikou that hard. I'm going to go Marowak. He also handles Jirachi just... Zam. Then Dead here, he's bringing Ludicolo plus Arcanine. He really liked using that concept in Cycle 1 when Zapdos was a thing, and he'd always pair it with like a Rock-type third. So something like Tyranitar or Regirock. Again, oh, Tyranitar. That's so insane to me, by the way. Like, so little Tyranitar. Either way, yeah, and the pick here, I mean, like, it really just feels like, you know, what is the Ludicolo answer? It's likely Jirachi. What do you pick into Jirachi? You pick the Arcanine. What do you pick if you think the Arcanine is coming out? You go either Walrein or Marowak, and here I think I would go Walrein because it destroys Dragonite. Because Dragonite can beat Marowak and Jirachi. And you know what? Maybe Walrein has an okay chance against Ludicolo. But either way, this was just felt like a simple 50-50-ish. And here, Dead gets it. But there's a trick. It's fucking banned Dynamic Punch to handle Blissey harder, which is hilarious. Confuses the Arcanine, but Arcanine unconfuses and kills with the White Herb Overheat. And there you go. Ugh. Good pick. Outpicks Ecstatic Cold and gets it. Gets the Arcanine in on the Jirachi, and we're off to Game 3. I think this might have been a C2 Dead Server. Smart. I mean, like, Ecstatic Cold has been bringing the same stuff. Here, Ecstatic Cold brings a team that he's brought twice with different variations. And he brought his good old Blastoise, but also then the Marowak and the Ursaring. And Dead Server brings Kingdra, which seems like a nightmare matchup for this team. Nothing much else to say, but it's probably that defensive Kingdra. Gets sub, so that you can live return after the sub, and obviously you Hyper Beam. Ecstatic forfeits, he's banned Hyper Beam. And there it goes. Dead Server 3 O's. Ecstatic Cold. Great prep, great plays, just looking like a really good ADV player. And Ecstatic Cold gets punished for bringing the same shit, which is maybe one of his biggest weaknesses. But even when Ecstatic Cold doesn't care, he's still one of the best players, which shows that when he does care, he's very hard to beat. But either way, finally, we have finals of ADV 1v1 LT. This is Dead Server versus Birds. A really hilarious matchup. And Dead Server has an insane, likely 3-0 game 1 with Hariyama. Interesting thing to note here with Hariyama is that it can either be Thick Fat or Guts. I think Thick Fat is a lot more like of a good niche that Hariyama has over the other fighting types, and that it really destroys Arcanine and Zard. But you can also run Guts for the up-and-coming Toxic Tauros, because if it's not that, then I think Tauros probably, right? Probably does. No, I think Tauros can actually Toxic. It lives a Brick Break. No, I don't know. I don't know how that matchup works, but Thick Fat is likely the play, and it just absolutely pummels this right now. And what's also interesting that I'll say is that this Regice was actually a banded Regice with Superpower and Thunderbolt to beat the Birds team that Birds loved of Marowak, Gyarados, to see Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Superpower to two-hit KO Blissey that doesn't counter turn one, and his Blissey never had counter. And not only that, but it also kind of like semi might beat Tyranitar. I think it probably doesn't actually, but it could beat some Tyranitar. And that's ultra disc. And what I love about it though is that Blissey lure ultra disguised by the Hariyama in spot two. But either way, pretty simple Hariyama click here. Does what he can. He tries to go Arcanine into the other two. Yet again, naming it Pataya Berry, but it's not Pataya Berry. Again, just like not kind of just I don't know, like childish thing. Not childish, just not. It doesn't work. It's like not. It's not as cute as you. And Hariyama wins. Just a simple 3-0. Dead didn't have to think too hard about that. And we're off to game two. Game two, we see Hariyama again, like the matchup that it got round one. Could be a different set this time. And then you got the Moltres and the Vaporeon. So, matchup here, really simply, it's either Vaporeon and the Marowak. I mean, Marowak is like your... I mean, honestly, Marowak and Ments are your main ways to beat Hariyama. Hariyama can beat Marowak, actually, if you, like, outpace it, hit it with hits, and Marowak doesn't counter turn. Ments is also pretty safe in Hariyama, unless it's, like, an ultra bulky set that clicks counter on banned HP flying. But I think here, the Ments is probably more like a sub-Pataya set to beat Marowak, opposing Marowak or something like that. Or it could be like a banned set with Hydro Pump that tries to hit two. Could be that. That actually would have been interesting here. Either way, Moltres is never coming out. Because Moltres here, like the Moltres does beat Marowak usually, but you have a whole ass Vaporeon which matches up better versus Ments. So you might as well either go Vaporeon, and if you think the Raiku's coming out, probably a nice banned Hariyama to handle most Raikou. Unless it's like sub protect stall. And yeah, so let's just see what happens here. See that it's Vaporeon into the Ments, which was probably picked. The Hariyama. A-Claw crit. Bird's doing his best Bird's impression. But Dead gets it, just predicts that the Raikou is not going to come out, scared of the Hariyama. And thankfully the Vaporeon had Ice Beam so that it doesn't turn into a crit fest. Like just really prone to like multiple crits. And it was the Ice Beam offensive Vaporeon. Dead server winning with the Pokemon that he loves, like Hariyama, like Heracross and Vaporeon during this whole tour, but still mixing it up with his teammates. And he is up 2-0. He is one game away from winning Ladder Tour. And what do we see? The trusty Umbreon. Umbreon, gonna have to look into it more. Might be rankable. Here we got an interesting team. I mean, Blissey, Umbreon, Arcanine. Wow. Again, not gonna lie, I don't understand going this team when Dead has brought Hariyama twice. Hariyama probably beats this. I mean, then again, maybe the fucking Umbreon actually just charms it. That would be funny, and you just hope that you don't get cross chop crit. You might charm Toxic it. That's actually so funny to think about. Could be. But either way, yeah. Click here. I mean, it's either Vaporeon into the Arcanine, or you go Heracross into the other two. Not much else to say. Sometimes ADV 1v1 is like that. There's not a lot of like diverse things that can happen here, in my opinion. I just don't think the Umbreon comes out. Like if you predict that one of these two are coming out, you're probably going to go Blissey. Blissey should handle both. But either way, we see a really, again, I think this is like a super poor pick. Like I do not understand for the life of me why one would go on here, but I guess Birds does make that play. Tries to charm on the Heracross. Heracross is like, you know what? Fuck that plan. I'm just gonna Mega Horn, and it's too late. And Dead server, also known as Dead Gamer Man, wins ADV 1v1 LT with a 3-0, and he is your champion. Great plays. He tried the most. He prepped the most, besides me round one. But no, for real, like Dead did a great job, and he deserves all the praise. He brought some cool stuff. Had some cool ideas, and yeah, that's ADV 1v1 LT. Dead won. I hope you guys enjoyed all this commentary. A lot of ADV 1v1 LT content. Appreciate the support. I appreciate the support in the tournament, even though it had a lot of highs and lows, and I was inactive towards the end because of college. Again, I love ADV 1v1. I love doing this stuff. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe, all that shit. And I'll see you guys next video.